As far as reading, supervising and marking bachelor's and master's dissertations and doctoral theses go, I've probably been around the block a few times. Now, those of you listening to this message are also from that group. A good many of you will have had far more experience than me in doing this, but some of you may be completely new to this whole field of practice. So thanks for doing that, and here are 3 tips I want to share with you on what not to do. The first one is marking everyone as if there's one size that fits all. Just because you've marked some bachelor literature review dissertations doesn't mean that every literature review has to follow that particular style. And you have to be aware that the specific guidelines for these dissertations are quite flexible and very different from the bachelor's work. Another problem is when some supervisors put themselves as the template against which the students are being judged. Again, you're not meant to do that. Look at exactly what they're expected to do, how they're expected to do it, and ask yourselves, did they do that? Not whether it's done according to how you might have done these things. And the third problem is marking a student down once they've submitted, even though they followed your earlier comments and your requirements through their supervision process. Let me give you some examples of what I mean. The very first time I ever supervised a bachelor's student, many years ago, she was doing a dissertation on sexual health in old people. Now, she said that she couldn't find much primary research done on sexual health in old people, so she was looking at primary research on sexual health and primary research on old people's health. And she really combined these two well. It was a fantastic academic approach that she took, and especially demonstrating that there wasn't much originally done on this, and how she could therefore draw from different fields of research study. However, the second marker that I was working with refused to give this excellent, well, I thought an excellent project, anything more than 0. She refused to mark it. And she said, the guidelines say, only choose a topic on which enough has been published. If the student starts off by saying, not much has been published on this, then she shouldn't have done the dissertation. And the supervisor was really dogmatic on this and refused even to mark the work, wanting to give it 0. So please, never go down that route at all. Be flexible. Look at how the students have used their academic studies to be as creative as possible in designing the best outcome for the particular project and the theme that they want to do. Yes, they should mention limitations of this, but also look at the opportunities they've got for further development. Another example could be where supervisors may have a preferred way for viewing a particular study, and that differs from what the student has actually produced. The example I can give you here is of one master's student who did a service evaluation. The student followed the guidelines exactly for doing what it says in the book on a service evaluation. And the actual tools that this individual used came from survey design. But the marker turned round and said what the student had done was a survey, not a service evaluation, and therefore wanted to fail the work as it was a poorly executed survey design, not a service evaluation. Now, that wasn't understanding how the student did this. The student actually did do an evaluation of the service, but used survey methods through which to carry this out. And the student gave a good rationale for why they were choosing those methods. So the marker was being a bit of a purist here, saying, well, if you're using survey methods, this should be called a survey. But you're not allowed to do a survey, therefore fail. Please don't go down that route either. The final example I want to give you here, and of course I could give you so many more from all the dissertations I've actually worked with and the markers, is when A supervisor gives particular advice to a student during the study, and between giving that advice and getting the work in for marking, the supervisor realizes that they didn't know it all or they got it wrong, and therefore they've updated their knowledge since giving the advice. And when the student then hands in the work, the supervisor marks them down, or the marker marks them down, because they haven't done it properly. And yet, they followed what that supervisor said earlier on in the process. Remember, honey goes down better than vinegar. Be kind, be compassionate in understanding the students. They're not all going to do it exactly how you would, but it doesn't say in the regulations that they must do it as you would do it. So as long as they've done what it says in the regulations, as long as they've done them as well as possible against the level 7 grading criteria, that's what they get marked on, not whether they've done it as you would do it. Thank you so much for listening.